It took over a whole damn year, but I finally got the Sugar Mama Funko Pop. It took over a year. Shout out to one of my friends. She got it for me. She found it in a store. It took almost half a year to get this in my possession because it was just a crazy thing. But I've seen this so many times, but I knew I had one waiting for me. This is mine. It's home. And guess what, y'all? The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder is back. Season 2, baby. Here we go. Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I nearly forgot this show was coming back. I knew it was renewed, obviously. We knew that fairly, I think, not that later after season 1 wrapped up properly that we were going to get a season 2. And for me, I was just like, okay, I can't wait for it. And it kind of came out of nowhere. It was like they announced it randomly in November that, oh, season 2 is coming out February this year. And I was like, okay, that'll be great. It'll be nice to get like 10 more weeks of the Proud Family. And then I logged in on Disney Plus on February 1st, expecting just there to be the first episode. But no, it was all the second season. The entire second season is ready to go, ready for your binging pleasure. So it's been a little bit more than a week. I think, yeah, today would be a full week since the show came out. So you had enough time to go watch it. But again, this will be spoiler-free for a good amount of it. I'll let you know when we switch over to spoiler section. Just so you let you know. So for me, I was a little bit surprised. This isn't the first time that Disney Plus has done this, where they've done they always do week to week to shows that are first seasons, and then when it comes to some season 2s, they tend to just release them like a Netflix model where they release everything at once and they left it to your viewing pleasure. For me, having now watched all of season 2, nearly binge. I started on, I think, exactly on the first, and then it took me an entire week to get through all 10 episodes because I had a lot of things going on. For me personally, season 2 was, honestly, I really thought that going into season 2, I thought that we were going to, I had a little inkling in my mind because my usual co-host, George, told me about the Cuphead show controversy where apparently their season 2 was only the first production season split in half. So they advertised it as season 2 when in reality it was still the first production season. And this wasn't the first time I was aware of it. I know when Total Drama got renewed for season 5, they got renewed for a 5th production season, but they split up that season into half. So you had season 5 and season 6, but sometimes they'll call it season 5A and season 5B. For me, I completely just split them off into their own thing. But they were advertised as new seasons. So for me, I heard about that controversy. I was very bummed that, that was a little bit of a shitty thing to do. But again, I know it was cost effective. It wasn't fair to the team working on it. And for me, going into Proud Family Louder and Prouder season 2, I initially thought that, okay, the way they ended season 1 was clearly, I feel like they got picked up for 20 episodes because it took them, again, animation takes a while, development takes a while, especially like you're bringing back these characters, not relatively too late, as I talked about during the season 1 review, where season 1 came out, I want to say roughly 15 or so years after the show originally ended, and then now here we go. This season only took a year to make, and it's a little confusing to say the least whether or not that these episodes were just need to get some touch-up work or that they were taking their time. I really don't know 100%. It's just that I want to believe that this was ordered because of the success of the show. I hear good things that this show was successful. I'm hoping the result will continue into season 2 to get a season 3. But we shall see. We really should see, because the way they ended season 2 was kind of, very serendipitous. But to answer my original thought, because I went on a whole tangent there, season 2 was better than season 1. I initially thought this was going to be a little bit less par than season 1, because season 1 was all about reintroductions, like bringing us back into the world of Proud Family, with our same old characters with a new fresh coat of paint. You got new characters thrown as well, and as well as a awareness of like what's going on in the larger world of, our society. There's a lot of things they tackled in season 1, and this season they tackled on much more of it. And I especially like that they really got into some deep cuts over here, whether that is into the show's mythos or into the actual reality of our world. I feel like the final 3 episodes of the season are like, I wish we had gotten a week-to-week format so that each of those episodes would have gotten a chance to breathe, which is some of the benefits of, having a binge format, because like you get to see everything pretty quickly. You don't have to wait 2 months for those specific episodes, for instance. But I was pretty bummed, like, in the conversation piece, some episodes weren't really talked about, but there was one in particular that they did talk about, which for me, honestly, it made sense. But like, I was like, damn, I really would have loved it if like every episode got their own time period so that we know, like, you know, where things could stand over there. And the way they ended the season was more like kind of like a close-knit, like, if we sadly don't get season 3, because it's a reality of things, you know, it's no secret that the previous CEO, Bob Chapek, really wanted to make as much Disney Plus content to bolster the platform to get people like me to, like, always be subscribed to, which, again, the strategy worked in that aspect. And I'm very happy that, like, this is one of those shows where, like, it was great throughout. And I'm not saying that it's over. I'm really hopeful we're still going to get more. I want to see more of my girl Sugar Mama, who was sadly not in the finale, which I'm like, damn, I really felt bummed by that. But anywho, but for me personally, season 2 was way better than the first season. They definitely took the characters we know and love, and they continued to expand upon them. I think everyone got a little bit of their own time to shine this season. It definitely fulfilled some of my, oh my god, if this was the end of the Proud Family again, they definitely went on a high note. And I really hope that this isn't the finale, that there will be more to share. And I love this show so much. I love this universe, and, you know, once again, they knocked it out of the park. So to go into spoilers specifically about it, so before I go any further, remember you can catch all the episodes of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, Season 2, only on Disney+. All of the episodes of Season 2 are now aired now, so you can go check it out. So for me personally, non-spoiler opinion, I loved it. It was amazing. If you love Season 1, you're going to love Season 2 even more so. If you haven't watched either seasons yet, and you randomly picked on this review, go for it. Go watch Louder and Prouder. It's a great show. It's not only a great great revival, it's also a great show, period. And, you know, it's definitely going to be one of those. Hopefully down the road I'll rewatch eventually. So with that being said, and I just broke my chair, damn it. Well, I didn't break my chair, but, like, I suddenly, like, the back platform's now stiff. I'll fix that later. Let's go. I was gonna say let's go for the Butcher recap, but it's not that type of show. But no. So going to spoilers specifically, the main 4 episodes I did want to talk about specifically in this segment is the season premiere, which again, the thing that really encapsulated me about the season finale was mostly, yeah, we got to see basically Sugar Mama's origin story of, like, how did she become the badass that she is today? How is she still alive? How is this elderly woman still kicking ass in, you know, 2022, 2023? Honestly, I'm still surprised, and I'm very happy to report, like, yes. So that was one of my gripes with, like, the season finale last time, where, like, they purposely split off the episodes to, like, you know, keep us guessing for what happens next. And again, like, you know, getting to see more Sugar Mama's origin, especially, like, you know, the seeds of how the Proud Family, you know, started in terms of, like, their legacy, at least on the aspect of Sugar Mama herself. That was great to see. That was amazing to see. Getting them to tap into their roots and everything, and getting to, like, you know, actually build out this family tree that roughly we didn't really know much about. We still don't know much about Trudy's side of the family. We still don't know much about Oscar's dad. So I'm like, yeah, but definitely the focus was on Sugar Mama, and I was like, yeah, I love that aspect of her. And again, the actress who plays Sugar Mama once again does an outstanding job in this episode, and, you know, finally giving the definitive origin story for Sugar Mama. So that was great to see. And throughout the season itself, like, I was a little bit worried that, like, we were getting to, like, some monotony of, like, you know, we weren't getting to, like, really important stuff. And again, that's the thing when you get to some animated shows. I feel like that's kind of, like, my one iffiness with, like, if I have to make a comparison to another anime show I'm watching on Disney Plus, which is The Bad Batch, where, like, it kind of gets into, like, a cycle where it's like, it's kind of like the same thing, just, like, with something different, a different spin on it. And I feel like every episode of Louder and Prouder has been different to an extent. If I have to say so myself. I feel like the more important aspect of the season came at the end, where I'm like, I thought that, okay, being totally transparent here, them having an entire episode where they basically did a Who's the Father parody with Puff, who apparently I thought he was a boy when I was a kid, and I'm like, apparently a lot of people thought that he was a girl, which I'm like, no, he's a boy. I always thought of him as a boy when I was growing up. I'm like, yeah, okay, it confirms he's a boy. But the way that episode went, like, there was an episode where it's basically, there was a whole other subplot, but the priority was, like, Puff was questionable as a father, that he was the father of puppies. And there was a whole conflict between the Proud family and La Ciénega's family. And I was just like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And, like, the moment they brought in a certain real life celebrities appearance, and they actually did a thing. I was like, I'm so freaking happy. Let's go. I cried, laughed, because like that was so good. The performance and everything was just so perfect. I love that episode so much. But then getting into like the final 3 episodes, like, well, I will admit a little bit of dismiss, so a little bit of like, oh, that kind of sucks. Where there was, and again, this is spoiler section. If you're already gone this far, that's on you. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but they acknowledged the Proud Family movie. I was like, oh my god, this is happening. They're actually the movie is canon, because like for the longest time, like it was so weird, because like Penny was 16 in the movie, and then here she's kind of like debatable on the age, where like, yeah, she definitely grew up at least a year, because the babies grew up a year as well. So they did acknowledge there was a time skip between the old show and the new show, but it was always like in the mystery, like, was the movie canon? And me going through that episode was the 3rd from the last episode, and I was going through that, and I was like, wow, they're doing it. They're acknowledging it. We're gonna get their return. And then I'm like, oh man, it wasn't the case. Apparently, it was something else. The movie isn't canon, and like, yeah, they did refer to the movie, and it's like, oh, it was just a dream. And I was like, oh man, are you really serious? That was the one bummy thing I had about. I mean, yeah, the movie was very much over the top, like. It's an animated show, I know, and yeah, there were episodes in the original show where like they went even further off the rails with certain things. So like the movie seemed plausible that it could have happened, but I was very bummed that like, yeah, the movie apparently in the continuity of the main show was not canon. It was just written off as like, oh, it's just a dream. And I'm just like, bruh, this is just like the fucking anime movies where like, oh yeah, the anime movies can fit into the canon of the show. We just don't acknowledge it. And whenever we could make a direct reference, we're like, oh no, that didn't happen. That was like a totally different universe, which I'm like, are you... Whatever the case might be, I'm done. I'm done with that. But the next episode after that, which honestly, the last 2 episodes of the season really tackled on some like, you know, actual important issues that actually are prevalent in the world. And it's also about the sake of like, you know, representation, and like, you know, actually we need to speak up about this. We need to like, you know, actually talk about it more often. Because I think I spoke about this on a What's on the Tube episode review I did for one of my shows. I forgot which one it was. It's been a long couple of weeks. But I talked about how like the aspect of like media where, oh no, I talked about it in the Three Pines review. That was the last review, definitive review I did, where I talked about like people's mindsets, and you know, it's the media, where like the media only gives us the information we want to know, and then as soon as they stop the coverage on it, as soon as like the main general people, the population stop talking about it, it dissipates. It doesn't get talked about a lot. If you're very into the subject, yes, you will always hear something about it, but in reality, in terms of like the main public, they forget about it, and that really sucks. It really does. It's really hard to keep the eye on something for so long, because that's just the general thing of like just how the world is right now. A good example I can suggest is like go watch the film on Netflix. Don't look up. We're not sponsored by them, but like that was a really good film where that really brought into attention of like, yeah, we would be screwed as society because we don't get the information. I'm pretty sure there's information where they're classified, but they don't tell us because it would be an interference with something else that they're doing, and it does suck. But not to say well, actually, I'm just saying that in the general, like, you know, there are topics that people do talk about, but it doesn't get talked about enough, or like we don't talk about it every single week or every single day of the week, that if we're not in tune with like that specific subject material. Where in the penultimate episode of the season, we tackled on BB, the boy baby of the Proud family, and that he has autism. Because of his, you know, his tendencies, like, you know, disappear for long periods of time, like just randomly just disappears somewhere, does something else, has very slow reaction to things. And ironically, not ironically, in the sake of like just the world it is, for me personally, with me is that I am actually watching The Good Doctor right now. As a casual binge. It's not something I'm doing for the channel. It's not something I'm doing for any piece of content. It's just something I want to watch for myself. And the main character is portrayed as autism. So I'm starting to get a little bit more in tune on that subject material, because I have seen it in other forms of media, just it wasn't like a prevalent focus. And the fact that the Proud family actually like, no, BB is autistic. He's only beginning his symptoms, the conditions of it, and you know, he will somehow most likely develop more signs of it as he gets older. And honestly, the way they handled it was like, it was still in tune of like, you know, it's still following the characters as they are, And, specifically Oscar being the denier that he is, and he being the hardest of the family to accept anything new or anything that's like against his financial status, his business, or his family, in that order sometimes. But the way that when eventually Oscar breaks down and he like accepts it, it's like that's such a big deal because like we always portray Oscar as like out of this world, always like the more unrational person in the world, the most difficult person to like convince to change, to like adapt or anything. And the fact that he had to witness it for himself and like actually have to morally accept it was like, that was kind of like what broke me. Not broke me like in a crying state, but like just broke me. It's like this is a serious thing that like a lot of parents have to deal with, and they have to accept it, and obviously treat their child with care and love, and demonstrate like they can still live a normal life. It doesn't mean like they're going to be specially classified or anything, but it's just they need special attention. They need more help, and they're going to need more resources for them to survive in this world. Because like I can relate. I'm not autistic, but my sister, well, she's not autistic as well, but she had developmental issues that like she's not entirely fully there sometimes, and that could be hard. And like life does not always benefit them. There's a lot of systems in place for them, yes, but it's not always widely available. And that's the thing that like I felt so prevalent for this episode, where like by the end of it, like once they all slowly accept it was like, okay, yeah, we can move forward with this. We can find a way through this together as a family. And they get into the final episode of the season, where like I actually got spoiled on it on Twitter because it was blowing up on Twitter because the hashtag boycott Disney was trending. I'm just like confused as heck. I'm like, what is going on? What did Disney do now? And it was about the Proud Fan, which I'm like, what the heck happened? Like, have I missed this episode before? Like, no, it's one of the episodes. It's the finale where short term of it, the new character Maya, she communicates with an ancestry ghost, and that tells her that like, oh yeah, your family has like a dark history where the founder, who's actually your adopted father, who's a descendant of him, was a slave owner. He had a slave farm in your town's premises, and you are in a way related, if not connected to that. And she gets obviously blasphemized about it because like she didn't even know about that history. And it also is like Look, the thing is that I'm sometimes aware of what's going on in the larger world. There's some cases where like I am so in tune with my work, my regular job, where like I don't get to tackle everything. But I was aware that there was like major changes in the education system since I left. Like certain parts of history are omitted because they are just ruled as like it's not really necessary for them to teach them. But like no, everything in history is relevant. And I already knew that growing up, where like history is always going to be subjective. Where for me, my textbooks, because I live in America, are always going to be pro-American. Like, anything about any wars or anything are going to be written in the perspective of America. But if you go to another country and you read the same exact, subject material, it will be written differently because this is how they're written. Like, there's a larger checks and balance system where like, they're going to approve it, they're going to accept it, they're going to obviously modify it that benefits the narrative of like, we are not the bad people. But in reality, things like, for me, again, I've spoken this many, many times before in other pieces of content where, like, for me, it's the gray system where, like, there is really no good, there really is no bad. You believe in what you believe, and for me as a person, if I go up against someone that has a different opinion to me, that doesn't mean he's my enemy, or she's my enemy, or they're my enemy. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means we have two different opinions. It's just how do we respond to that is just the relevant question that is something that we need to ask ourselves. And so going into like this episode where Maya discovers all these aspects about her family's history and the founder, and like everyone's like obviously rattled by it. It's like we need to enact change. This cannot stand. Like, why should we be founded on a town with this owner that like does not conform with like present day values? Which I'm like, I agree about it. Obviously there's some things in history where like we will never know the truth because as we get older, as our generations, start going into like the next era and stuff like that, previous history starts to get a little bit more blurry. It starts to get a little bit more questionable. Do we need to talk about it? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things in history that I don't even know about. Like, there's in just the current numeral value alone, there's like only 2,000 years. I don't even think I can maybe equate to like at least 100 of those years. I don't even know what happened all those other years. Like, there's so many different, things that I don't even know about, and there are going to be generations where like right now that they don't know about these certain things, where like they omit that because they don't want them to like think about that. which I'm like, again, like the knowledge should be open. Like, you know, if you're teaching history, you got to teach everything. It's not just like what you want to teach. It's what everything needs to be available for anyone that wants to explore it. If they don't want to read it, that's on them. That's perfectly on them. But at least give them the choice, or at least give them like the basics to know. And if they want to explore it further, that's what they can do. And then so when this trend happened, for me looking in, I'm like, what are they doing wrong? This is totally what is happening right now. It's literally the same thing. What is there a problem that, you know, they're talking about it actually? Like no, they're definitely they're using their platform. The Proud Family has a platform to talk about this issue. That yes, this is morally wrong. That yes, change should be necessary. We need to be treated better as human beings. Everyone needs to be treated better. No one deserved that growing up. And like, yeah, if there are bad people out there that does morally bad things, why should we, you know, honor them? Why should we respect them? So what the characters did in the Proud Family was especially right. And it spoke volumes. Like, I was actually surprised that they did a right arrest scene. And I'm sorry, I'm going really deep into spoilers here. I'm sorry. But like, you know, it expresses like how, you know, I'm very happy that they did not shy away with anything. They didn't omit anything, that they went full serious. This is actually something that could happen in our real world, which has happened in our real world. And they really express it. My only little bit is like, again, it's similar to Grey's Anatomy, where like when Grey's did their COVID season, and then at the end of that season, they said, oh, we have the vaccine, COVID is basically over. Obviously for us right now, like, yes, COVID into a sense is over. No one talks about it anymore that prevalent. It is still happening around America. It's still happening around the world. People are still wearing masks. Vaccines are still a thing that are commonly being promoted. But right now, in the general sense, COVID is over to a certain piece of a degree. So now to go on the other side of the spectrum where, yeah, like the change of like, you know, like they managed to like reform the town, and like everyone was on board with the change, like not out right away. It took like a month in the show's time. I was actually surprised that like everyone was like so quick to enact. And I was like actually surprised. And actually, I actually learned a couple things from the Proud Family, like this episode. I was like actually surprised that like I actually learned a couple more things. And that's a great thing for like a show to actually do something that, you know, is sadly not relatively available in most function, where like they got to teach you something. And I thought that was great. And again, that's what I meant, like the way they ended this episode, not only just to like give a really happy conclusion that this could be what things could be if people were more willing to like, you know, talk and I actually, you know, do the morally right thing, not the ethical right thing, the morally right thing. Ethicals too, but like, you know, that's getting into semantics there, but still from my point, like the way the end of that episode was like, yeah, for me, if that was the end of the Proud Family period, that I would be perfectly fine with that. It just definitely gives the feeling of like, yeah, this is like a solid conclusion, a solid, like, you know, way to like have this sort of like, we can have a happy ending, that like, you know, we can make things right. And, you know, that was a great message to share. And I was really happy with the end result. That like, you know, kudos to them, kudos to the entire team, the writers, the animators, the crew, the actors, everyone involved in the season, especially that episode. Those last episodes were great, honestly great. So kudos to them, and I really can't wait to see if you guys will do a third season, because I really can't wait. But for now, for me, again, I loved all the characters so much. This season, I really got to bond with more of the new characters. You know, Maya and her brother, as well as Michael. They definitely got to feel more in tune with the main cast than before. Even I think Penny's friends had more involvement this time around. I feel like, again, last season was more like bringing us back into the world and more focusing on like what does the Proud Family like focus on in this current modern society. This season was more about like getting that all together, like getting everyone together again. And if we do get to do a third season, hopefully we'll get to continue that down the road. But yeah, but for me, I'm going to give this season my highest recommendation of like, go watch it, go binge it. Again, you can find all the seasons of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, available on Disney Plus right now, alongside the original series and the original movie, which is now sadly not canon, but that still counts as canon in my brain. But let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the second season of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder? Let me know if you're hoping for season 3. Let's have a conversation down below. You know I love to talk to you all about it. But for now, I think that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the 2 from ActionX, reviewing The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder Season 2. If you want to see more of me talking about shows, whether that is episode by episode, season by season, or just random quick impressions or random reviews like this one, you can go check us out on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Ring that bell for notification when our next review is live. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to, and as well as follow us on social media. But until we see each other again, for all you people out there, for everyone out there listening to me and my voice and this Funko Pop. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all down the road. But until then, stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.